Hi everyone, I'm Chris Scalise. I work at Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan, and I have my bachelor's degree in fine arts. Started out my life as a photographer. I did photography for about 10 years. I did architectural photography and commercial work, and then I moved into Apple. I started at Apple in 2005 as a genius. I guess I should hit play. There we go. I started at Apple in 2005 as a genius, and then a lead genius, and then I went back to Wayne State, where I graduated from in 2014, and here I am. I wanted to talk today about Apple's DEP and an MDM server and how those two work together. When I was here in 2015, I heard a lot about DEP and MDM and was just amazed by it, but no one really talked about or showed what DEP actually was and how it works with MDM. So when I got back, I really took a look at what I needed to do to implement DEP and MDM, and it was like magic. It was so cool. Coming from an Apple background, I did a lot of hardware work, so this really wasn't in my realm until I really started to investigate it. So it really helped out the college and the university and the faculty and staff. So portable tech. Many of our faculty and staff at the College of Fine Performing and Communication Arts would love to use portable computers rather than their desktop computers. A lot of faculty love their MacBook Pros, and they're actually moving towards the 12.9-inch iPad Pros. They love the portability. They love the apps that are available, especially a lot of the design instructors. They've got a lot of apps, and they like to build a lot of apps for the App Store for these iPads, and they like to test them out in their classrooms. So this is a great tool for them to have. But there was always a big roadblock before we actually introduced DEP and MDM, which is how do we get these iPads? We can get them and we can give them the faculty, and hopefully they use them the correct way, and when they leave, hopefully they give them back to the university. With students, there was really no good way to get them iPads, because if we gave them iPads, they had them for the semester, they would log in with their Apple ID, they would give them back without logging out, and then you'd have a brick. So that was kind of nixed. But now, since we have DEP and MDM, we can get iPads for an entire classroom. They can use them for a semester or for a year. We don't have to worry about them ending up as bricks. They can log in with their own Apple ID. They can use the iPads the way that they want to. And this brings me to ownership. They're responsible for the device. They're more productive because they've actually got that device and it's theirs. They can log in with their own Apple ID. They have this fully capable, fully functioning iPad that's not really locked down, that isn't blocked at all, unless I block a few things. And for faculty and staff, especially for faculty, it gives them kind of like that unboxing experience, right? From Apple, you get an iPad or you get a MacBook Pro and you open it up and it's this great package, and you know, we do it all the time, but for somebody that gets a new toy, they love playing with that new toy. And one of the big things is opening it up, turning it on, and letting it go. Rather than having it go through the IT department, we put our fingerprints all over it and then we give it to them. Say, here you go. That's just from the university. Do with it what you like, and it comes back broken. So yeah, it gives them a sense of ownership. And it also is a big deal with their Apple ID. They can put their Apple ID in there. They can get their apps that they've purchased. They can get their music. Again, it creates a great sense of ownership for our faculty and staff. So they take care of them better. One of the little roadblocks I ran into setting up our Apple DEP in a university setting is that I just couldn't set it up for our small college. I had to set it up within the entire university. So that meant I had to go through Wayne State's procurement and strategic sourcing. I had to work with the people in that department to get Apple DEP going. Actually, the person that's the head of procurement is actually our admin, and he slices out little pieces for everybody that wants to get enrolled in DEP. It goes through the legal department, which had to review all the terms and conditions. And for us, when we look at terms and conditions, we just click yes, and we just kind of push forward. To us, it really means nothing or maybe a little something. But when you get to a university level or a business, lawyers take over, and they love to look at every single word that's in there. So a really funny story, I had DEP, and then when the Apple School Manager came out, I thought, wouldn't this be cool? We can get the Apple School Manager. Went through procurement, and they sent it to legal, and legal spent a month looking at all of the rules and came back with a sheet of terms and conditions that they wanted changed from Apple. Who wants to guess how that went? So we did not get Apple School Manager. We went back to our original DEP, which is a good thing, because at a university setting in higher education, DEP was really all we needed, and it's what I just needed for enrolling Mac products. I really didn't need all of the things that the school manager had. So it's kind of lucky, but it was a very good learning experience as to how the legal system works at a university. And it was fun to get that letter back from Apple that said, no way, signed. So our classroom work, our communications department was actually the first to get iPads for their students. And when we got this, our DEP program really wasn't set up, but we had our MDM server. So I set all of the iPads up with our MDM server. Before I did that, though, the faculty member asked, how are we going to do this? What can we do? And I showed her what Apple Configurator looks like and what you'd have to do to configure the iPads, make them supervised, and then I can enroll them in MDM, and then her eyes glazed over, and she was like, no, I'm not going to do that. So what I did is I took the dozen iPads and used Apple Configurator to supervise them, then enrolled them in MDM, and it was a multi-step process. The things that this faculty member asked for as well, I really couldn't manage on the iPads that well. So it was, oh, no. No, I don't. Thanks. And hopefully it goes back up. Yes. There we go. I'll do the Java update later. Don't worry. So once we got our DEP, what I did is I took all those iPads, since they hadn't been given out to students yet, I wiped them, enrolled them in DEP, and then it was like magic. It was like 110% easier to push profiles, to let students do what they needed to do. It was a lot of testing to make sure that they couldn't break them or that I could wipe them and give them to the next round of students. So getting DEP and MDM working together made life 100% easier for me. And it I really saw the power of managing the Mac devices with MDM, and I really saw the power of the device enrollment program, which is incredibly simple once you get it past your legal team and you get going with it. So this is actually a friend of mine, Michael Schellebarger. He's a musician and he works in the music department. And he said this to me one of his first days that he was there on campus. He was a new hire. And that the faculty are artists and they want to work on their art and teach their classes, and that's it. and they just want things to work. And I really try to, I remember that. I try to put it to use when I'm at work. These faculty and staff, they really don't want to hear all the things that we do or all the things that they can't do or all the things that they may be able to do. They just want their computers to work. They just want their iPads to work, and they want them to work the way that they want them to, which means that when they're on sabbatical, they want to be able to connect their printer to their vacation house up north in Michigan or out west in California and be able to print. That brings me to another point. I think it's the next slide there. They want admin experience. They want the admin experience. They want to be admins of their own computers. They want to be able to do what they need to do with their iPad Pros that they've got. They need these functions because they're doing their work and they don't really have time to call the help desk, for us to remote in, for us to give them admin access, or for us to log in as admin and add a printer or add their Wi-Fi or do whatever a normal user can't do, which is actually quite a bit in the Apple world. Getting DEP and MDM really changed the dynamic of how we manage our computers that we give to our faculty and even our staff, to actually make them admins. They're controlled admins because the profiles, I can push out profiles that will control what they do and what they can't do. And it's kind of the illusion of being an admin. We saw a few things with Nomad that did kind of the same thing. That's the way that Apple really works, and that's what they like to have happen. They want you, the user, to have the best user experience that you can have. They don't really realize that we're a whole bunch of administrators, and we've got staff, and we've got faculty, and we've got students that we have to manage. They just want that end user to have the best experience, and it felt like it was up to me to be able to give that end user that best experience. And that was really getting them managed without having the end user feel like they were managed. So my MDM service that I use is AirWatch. There are plenty out there, Jamf. There's the Homebrew that I went to yesterday that was really cool. All the inner workings of MDM that I had no idea that it did, but it does. But I use AirWatch. I like the interface, and I like the graphics. This is one of the nice little graphics that it puts up at the start screen. It gives me a device breakdown, a platform breakdown. And as you can see, we don't have that many right now enrolled in MDM. We're just part of a major university. So we're kind of the test of MDM and of AirWatch for the entire university. So far, so good. We've got a couple Apple iOS and Apple macOS. And you can see up there we've got a couple Windows 7 and Windows Desktop. And one of the reasons that we went to AirWatch is that they could manage all platforms rather than just Macs. At the time, we were really interested in managing, seeing how it would manage a Windows machine as well. And again, it changes the whole dynamic. We want our faculty and staff, our end users, to have a great experience, whether on a Mac or whether they're on a Dell. They should be able to do what they need to do to teach their classes, to do their work, to do their artwork, and to do their research. This is a nice little operating system breakdown for Apple iOS. There are a bunch of these in AirWatch, but it's good to see whose iPads are updated, whose aren't updated, who you need to let know to update their iPads. Some of these that are at 9.3, 9.1, 9.0 are probably iPads that haven't been on. They're just waiting for the next semester or the next class to turn them on. And when they get turned on, they've got a little note from me that says, hey, make sure you update your iPad. So it's a good breakdown of what you've got and what you need to do. And your MDM server, whether again it's Apple or Jamf or AirWatch, they've got these great charts to let you know what's going on with all the systems that you have enrolled. Apple also does a really good job, right, for iOS devices. They kind of let you know, and then all of a sudden they push it right to you. So this is Apple's enrollment page, the device enrollment page in the volume purchase program. We also have the volume purchase program, which is really cool. But right now I was just going to show you the Apple device enrollment program. And really, once it's up and going, how simple it is to enroll a device. This is my server details. As you can see, we've got a total of 74 devices enrolled. And we've got a public key server token. And you set all of that up through whatever MDM server that you've got. They're very easy walkthroughs to send up that server token and public key so that MDM and DEP can talk back and forth to one another. Once that's set up, this is really the big screen. Choose your device. You can pop in serial numbers or several serial numbers. I like to do the order numbers because we've got an order of like 30 iPads. You can just put in that one order number and get all the iPads enrolled. Under Choose Action, Assign to a Server, I've only got one server, and it's my AirWatch server. So I choose that, and I click OK, and they all get enrolled. It's really just that simple, which is really cool. I thought that there would be a lot more to this, but it's very much just a two-step process to get them enrolled in DEP. And then it goes to your MDM server. This is, of course, Apple's server, their profile manager. I just took a screenshot of it. I tried to use it, and I just thought it was really clunky. And it didn't do what I needed it to do. And I had to approach our central IT department at Wayne State University to try and get it to work. They really didn't know what I was talking about or what they could do. The list goes on and on. So I really kind of shied away from that. But again, for a small company, or if your IT department, the university, this might be great for you to use. And this is another screenshot for the device enrollment program. We're in MDM in AirWatch. And as you can see, I've got 3 schools going. I've got our Wayne State University, which is our College of Fine Performing and Communication Arts. And then I've got 2 other departments, the Department of Education and the Department of, it's Diversity and Inclusion, but it's the School of Medicine at Wayne State University. And when they heard that I had DP and an MDM server controlling iPads, they gave me a call and wanted to know what they could do to get in on the program. So being the admin, I carved out a little section of AirWatch, and I enrolled their iPads that they were using and actually gave them control, made them administrators just of their little silos so they can get apps, push out profiles, and manage their own iPads. So it's a great tool where you're able to be at the top level and just spread out and give people little sections to use, to play with. Once the iPads and MacBook Pros are in DEP, what I usually do is I do fetch all devices, and that gets my MDM server to go out and grab whatever is in DEP and bring it into MDM. So those numbers under assigned will change. Like if the Department of Education is planning on getting 30 more iPads. So when I enroll those 30 iPads in DEP, I'll go to fetch all devices. In AirWatch, that number will balloon to 60. I'll know those iPads are ready to be, are ready to go, and that they're enrolled in MDM. And the first profile that's pushed is the start profile. And you could enable and disable a whole bunch of fun stuff. We put a profile name. I put the department and the support number so that shows up in the beginning profile. You can enable or disable certain things. I require MDM enrollment, supervision, a locked MDM profile, device pairing. I've enabled so that they can pair their MacBook Pros or their iPads to an Apple TV. And then I don't await configuration. I want it done as soon as possible, as soon as that hits a network. And then there are a couple other setup assistance, setup things, what we can skip, which is really nice because it kind of gets that account going and it gets that user going. They can skip a lot of the things, but of course you can always go back and enable them. So you can always go back and enable, you sign in with Apple ID, turn on Siri, that kind of stuff. And then there's some profiles that I've pushed out that I've made. And when I did this, I kind of went at it backwards, and now I know, but I need to go in and change a little bit. What was told to me through AirWatch and through other people that use this is that it's one profile per little fun thing that you have up there. So one profile for a passcode and one profile for restrictions and one profile for credentials. The first time I did this, I went nuts. I was like, wow, this is so cool. So I made one big gigantic profile. That was wrong. Because you'd have to go in and I was adding versions. I think one of the first profiles I made as test profile was up to like 15 versions because I was changing so many things. So if you do this, if you're going this route, again, whatever MDM server, a good word of advice, do a profile for each little section. A profile just for a passcode, a profile just for restrictions, so that if you need to take restrictions off of an iPad or a MacBook Pro, that passcode is still there. Right now I'm kind of stuck. So if I have to take this profile out, I have to take out the passcode and the restrictions and then enable it again. So I have some work to do on that one. Any questions? It's a screenshot. Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, totally forgot about this. It's the big orange box sitting right there in front of me.
The question was, when you added in a department and they already own their iPads, that would be after the fact of the original purchase for Apple's DEP program.
Correct. If the iPads that I enrolled for the Department of Education and the School of Medicine were brand new. There was a PO number they purchased, and they were still sealed in the box. If they weren't, and they were all already being used, what I figured out from this is that they would all need to be wiped and added again under DEP. There's no way once the computer is going to add it to DEP and then it magically gets the profile. It has to be wiped and then enrolled again. Ooh. Got it?
When we were trying to set this up, we were also told that for devices that are not owned directly, meaning that they weren't part of the DEP when you put them in.
Mm-hmm.
We had to prove to Apple that we own these devices. So we had to send them the order form
Yes.
for it. We had to send them that the reimbursement slip
Yes.
that we paid for that device.
Yes.
And then they would allow us to put it in.
That was another thing, another fun issue that I ran into with DEP is that our purchasing department has a certain tag number, and that tag number wasn't associated with our Apple DEP. there was another tag number from years ago. So when I first got it, I was enrolling all these computers in DEP trying to, and I would get the big red X said that you couldn't do it. And it took a good week to figure out that this number within procurement had to be changed so that it matched Apple's DEP number. So if these two magic numbers aren't matching up, those devices won't be allowed into DEP.
And if you buy your devices from other than Apple, you have to make sure that the vendor you buy it uses that ID.
Correct.
To enroll.
Yep. There's an ID attached to that DEP program. You and then.
Also with the DEP program, anything from 2011 forward is what's imported into your or your manifest.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Thanks. Here we go. Yeah.
We work in higher education where I'm from, and we have a campus store, and we were running into a ton of problems where the store was purchasing the devices, so technically the university wasn't, so we were not able to enroll these, and then we had to go through a bunch of hoops to try to figure out how to do it, and Apple just wouldn't let it happen. So eventually they told us we had to purchase it through a different account, and recently, working with Apple directly, they told us that coming this fall, you'll be able to enroll any device, regardless of where it's from, into your DEP. And what will happen is you'll have a notification on the device for 30 days informing the user that it will be enrolled. And after 30 days, it will be enrolled as though it was purchased directly from Apple. So no matter what happens, if it's wiped, it'll be in your DEP. It won't be supervision. It'll be ready to go. But the user will have the opportunity to say, nope, I don't want to do that. So they are working on it. They do understand it's more important where the iPad is going rather than how it got there, which for us is pretty huge.
That's awesome. I haven't heard that yet from our Apple reps at Wayne State, but I'll have to ask them about it.
So I've not personally deployed either, but my understanding was that DEP was primarily a way to automatically get things into an MDM system, and that you could still manually add stuff into an MDM system. Am I missing something big here?
That's actually my next slide.
Oh.
That was.
Okay.
There's a question right back there.
Back. Oh, I dare not throw it that far.
You got it?
So you've got 21 sections up there on the left-hand side.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure I understand that what you're saying is that if you wanted to modify a setting within each of those sections, you would actually push 21 profiles to the device.
That would, as weird as that sounds, yes, that would be the smart thing to do. Right now I can go through and I could add a version, so I could change restrictions. If I had LDAP going, I could change some things in there, but if I needed to take out that profile for any reason, or if I needed to, really, if I needed to take out that profile just for a while and then install it back, I shouldn't have 21 objects going, because I want, like I said, the passcode to stay, but the restrictions to go away, or I want the passcode to go away, vice versa. It's a lot easier than having to pull the entire thing out and put the entire thing back in.
And you believe that to be true of any MDM?
I believe so. I'm not super familiar with Jamf, but I think so.
The company I work for, they're growing overnight, ordering sometimes 10 a week for employees in the company. Is there anything to note when people have already been working on their iPads for months and might have some data? when enrolling in this, some people may not be using like iCloud or have, when there's data in a particular app or something,
Right.
about backing up in order to be able to get their data back once we enter them into the system.
DEP.
Yeah.
So those are two same questions, right? What I did right when I got the MDM server going at the university was I didn't have DEP going, so I had a lot of faculty and staff that already had MacBook Pros that had a ton of data on them, but I wanted to enroll them in MDM. So AirWatch, I was able to actually enroll them without going through DEP, but that meant that I had to go in and actually sit with them. I downloaded the agent for AirWatch, installed it. And when that happened, then any profile that I would push down, any app that I would push down, would get onto their computers. So yes, it is possible to use this MDM server without DEP. That would just mean, though, that you're enrolling them separately, and it's not just a clean mass enroll when you put them through DEP. And again, the only way for right now to really do it is to wipe the machine, enroll it in DEP, go to your MDM server, it connects to your MDM server, and then you, for me, I make user accounts first, and then
I forgot to mention that we don't have an MDM in place yet.
Okay.
We're still vetting an MDM. We're not in DEP yet, or volume purchase, nothing yet. But it's
Right.
something that's going to happen within the next few months. All of these things. So, is there anything to note when somebody's already been working on an iPad? They already have data on
Yeah.
there, in order to preserve that data for when we do enroll it and have to wipe it,
right.
and then get their data back on it.
If you're really interested in managing these, and it is a smaller company, and you can control all the people that have these products, and you can actually physically go to the computer, or you can remote in. I would say it's best to get the MDM server before you get Apple DEP, because your main focus is that you want to manage that computer.
Right.
DEP just gives you a really slick, easy way to do it, and the computer, that iPad is locked in.
It's more for the iPad. The question is more for the iPad,
Yeah.
because they may have data on that iPad that
Right.
needs to be backed up for when you wipe it to put
Right.
it in there to get it back on.
I would so it's a funny story. The dean of our college had an iPad, a MacBook Pro, an iMac. Well, he uses his MacBook Pro a lot and his iPad. And of course, he got them before we got DEP and we had MDM. And the only way to enroll his products in our DEP to get them locked in was to wipe them. And yeah, that wasn't a conversation I wanted to have with our dean. That I had to, just wipe his iPad and his MacBook Pro, and we're just going to start you from scratch. Or I'm just going to, kind of pull things back over and start you fresh. It was not going to happen. So I just enrolled that iPad and that MacBook Pro into AirWatch, downloaded the agent, and I'm able to see them in AirWatch and be able to push the profiles. Of course, I had to physically get the machines. But yeah, it's just the next machine that he gets, the next iPad that he gets, I'll be able to enroll in DEP. So the thing with universities, and I'm sure with small and large corporations, is that technology is, it's going to be refreshed at some point. And when it does get refreshed, that's the opportunity to enroll them in DEP. That's kind of the what I had planned to do.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but there might be, in my opinion, a little confusion on what we're talking about here.
Sure.
You only have to wipe them if you're enrolling in DEP, not
Correct.
MDM. If you're hooking up to just your MDM, you're just installing your agent or whatever from your MDM onto the
Correct.
device and getting it enrolled and setting your stuff there. DEP, if I'm thinking about this right, is just a way to automatically do that when you're getting it from Apple. You're going into Apple and you're saying, this is one of our devices. and I'm going to enroll it in our MDM when we get it. So you're pretty much already enrolling it in your MDM before it even hits your user or your campus or whatever. So wiping the device would only need to be done if you're enrolling it into your DEP program for whatever reason.
Correct.
If you just want to get your MDM going on it, you're just installing your agent and you're pushing your policies and stuff out to it. No,
not
to
at all.
enroll it in an
Nope.
MDM, you don't need to wipe it. We currently, I don't believe we use DEP at all, but we do use an MDM. And so every time I set this MacBook up, or every time I set a new PC or laptop or mobile device up, I've got to go put our Meraki agent on it.
Right.
And then it gets our policies, and then it gets a setting we can track it and do everything
Right,
like that. So
right.
DEP is the only time you have to wipe it.
The one thing about iPads that I had seen with AirWatch is that I had to connect them to Apple Configurator to get them supervised. That gives you a lot more options in the profiles that I could manage on that iPad. But correct, you don't need to wipe the machine or wipe the iPad just to enroll it in MDM. It can be going and going and going. All you have to do is put that agent on, and it's good to go.
Just because I had a very long conversation with Apple about this. DEP enrollment is just for when the machine is wiped. So you can manually enroll and enroll it in DEP.
Right.
And DEP will protect it if somebody wipes the unit.
Right.
You don't have to wipe it yourself. Although, in my experience, adding supervision to any iOS means you have to wipe the device. It has to be reset up if you want it supervised.
If you want to supervise it. You do.
Yeah.
But can't you restore? You can restore back
Oh yeah, you can restore back.
on an
You just
iPad.
have to.
On an iPad, you can. To restore it. Right.
It will allow you to bring somebody back, but if you restore a backup from an iPad that wasn't supervised to one that is, it will remove the supervision during the backup unless you do things
In a very specific manner. Yep.
Apple doesn't necessarily tell you to do it that way, but with enough trial and error, you can get the pattern down, and it's genuinely a timing thing.
Oh no.
Here, say it all over again.
So, anyway, if you have a supervised device and you need to restore a backup to it, and it's coming from a device that wasn't previously supervised, when you do that, it will remove the supervision unless that device is DEP enrolled. If you supervise it through Apple Configurator 2, it does not work. You have to go through a very specific set of steps, but on its own, if you supervise it, then just restore a backup, it will wipe it. Basically, what you have to do is you have to enroll it through Configurator, then do the backup, then push the supervision again before you hit the Let's Get Started option on the menu screen on the Setup Wizard. Then it will work. If you skip that step or do any of that in the wrong order, that supervision will be gone and it will be just the same as it was prior.
Okay.
DEP prevents that supervision from being removed, so it will work every time regardless of where the backup's from, whether it's iTunes or iCloud.
Got it.
You don't have to worry about it at all.
Does that help a little bit?
Actually, all of this helps a lot. Oh,
Right. Yeah.
Sorry, I'll go back a little bit. I'm trying to get my head wrapped around. If we got 50 people out there, it's a small number. They've been working on it for months. We're going to start purchasing from the volume program and implementing an MDM. In order to they may not back it up. They may just have everything just going on their iPads.
Right.
And then when we go to them, if we need to enroll that in the volume purchase program, and get the MDM working, and to be able to get what they had, get the iPad back to the state that it was before implementing the MDM, before implementing having to wipe it if it's supervised.
Right. That would be going through Apple Configurator and those specific steps to be able to get the information on that iPad back to where it was. Thank you. It's from my experience too, it's a lot of this was a trial and error on my part. So along with what he did. Off, on, maybe. Better? Okay. Yeah, I really had to play with it to get it to do what I wanted to do and what I needed it to do. So before implementing it, I would really suggest just testing the hell out of an iPad, just breaking it, going back, breaking it again until you figure out the workflow of what you've got. I never ran into that problem with iPads. It was mostly MacBook Pros that I was enrolling for faculty. And those you don't have to wipe. You just download the agent and it goes. This is one of the passcode features that I use for iPads, and I really like this one because it's great that it pushes a passcode out for students mostly, so that they know to put a passcode in, and I can change all kinds of fun things around. I can require an alphanumeric value, what else? Maximum number of failed attempts, grace period. So there's a lot that you can do once that iPad's managed and once you can push out profiles. And then again, I added a couple more to the lockdown profile for Macs, which I should probably go back and kind of redo. But there are some restrictions I have, and this is more for the faculty that have MacBook Pros. I try not to restrict them a whole lot. I want them, again, to be able to do what they need to do and what they want to do on their MacBooks. I restrict them from adding another account or deleting any profiles. But of course, I'm going to let them add printers, or I'm going to let them update software, which is a huge thing as well. I'm going to let them install software if they need it. If they need Flash, if they need things that they use on a daily basis, it's better for them to be able to do it than for them to keep calling the help desk when they're on campus, and if they're off campus, it creates more of a problem to be able to help them. Sometimes we're not able to. If they're not able to be online, there was one faculty member who was up north in Michigan, like around Traverse City area, and she needed to connect her computer to her printer, but there was no Wi-Fi up there, and she kind of had to travel to town to call us to ask us how she could connect her computer to her printer. And we kind of had to give her the news that we can't do it if we can't remote into your computer. We can only do it when you come back and bring your computer in. And of course, they weren't happy with that answer. And that's the one thing I don't want our faculty to not be happy. They need to be able to work and do their artwork and do what they need to do. So, but of course, on that note, for updating software and installing software, I've enabled Gatekeeper, and they're not able to change those settings. So if they want to, and this goes around all the time in the music department and in communications, if they want to download Audacity, Gatekeeper's not going to let them, and they can't override it. So they have to call and let me know. So it's a kind of a way of weeding out Audacity. I don't like Audacity at all. And one of the, I tried to put 4 up there. One of the cool things that AirWatch does, and I'm sure all MDM servers do, is compliance. So this is a short little compliance for MacBook Pros that faculty member gets. They open up. We want them to have SplashTop, which is our remote device into their machine. This is a little compliance that looks for SplashTop on their apps after we send them an invite. And if they haven't installed it yet, this compliance takes a look, and if SplashTop isn't there, it gives them a little note. And then I've set it up to wait for another day. After a day goes by, it gives them another note that they should install SplashTop. If I want to get really draconian, I could set up a third one that'll stop certain applications from launching. And then if it gets really bad and they really haven't done the compliance, I could just make, I don't know, the camera open, or just, no, that's a bad one. Make Safari open in just a limited capacity. So it kind of gets their attention. It's a great tool to use because it enables and it empowers the user. So we're asking, it's an example, we're asking a faculty member, we're asking a staff member to do something on their computer that'll help them. And we're not forcing, well, we're really not forcing them on it. We're just asking them, hey, can you do this? Can you install this? Can you do this thing? If they don't, they get you know, more and more privileges taken away. But it beats us having to, again, get the computer when it comes in, set it all up for them, put our fingerprints all over it, and give it to them. This, again, it creates a sense of ownership, and it creates a sense of, well, this is my machine. There are a few things that the university wants me to do, but in essence, you know, this is my MacBook Pro to have to use for my artwork or for what I need to do. And this is one of the big things that I think that this MDM server and DEP actually does. Advancing pedagogy, it gives our faculty advanced teaching tools, and the classrooms will be able to take these advanced tools and use them. Let's see, John Landis, who did the Raising for Bar for Learning and Tech, was the first day of the sessions. That was a really powerful session for me because it really showed me that students are really learning in a different way, and we have to give them a different way to actually learn. Right now our labs have all iMacs and PCs and their stations, and I think that that's going to be going away. I think that students are going to be coming in and they're going to be mobile. So it would be great, instead of all of these iMacs, to actually have iPads or to have a tablet that students can actually use throughout the semester. And if teachers create apps, or if they have these apps that allow them to do design work. Some of our faculty are on the boards of these app developers in Europe for doing design for automotive design, structural design, and they want to be able to push these apps to their students. And it's a great way to be able to, for that faculty member to create an app or help create an app, then push it to that iPad Pro that that student has all throughout the semester. And what my goal is to have that student actually have that iPad Pro at home, at the library, around campus, not just in the classroom. So it's a different way. It's a different way to look at how we're teaching students and how they learn. So I had a demo, and I have no idea if it'll work. Hopefully it does. But I have an iPad that is in the box. So I'm going to open it, connect it, and it's enrolled in DEP. and it should get the profile. I should be able to sign in with an account I made, the art student account, and then it's off to the races. It should go with a passcode with some apps that I've pushed down to it and a profile all ready to go. So we'll see. Are there any questions while I'm doing this? Any more questions? I don't know where the orange box is. There it is.
Now with, you're talking about DEP and an MDM, and you mentioned Windows.
Yes.
So that doesn't necessarily equate to Apple allowing a PC to be in their DEP program by serial number, right? Okay.
Right.
So does that mean that Dell or any of those other manufacturers are doing a DEP type program also?
No.
Okay.
I know that Windows does Azure, which is their auto enroll. I'm not quite sure how it works. But along with, again, the reason that we went with this is that you could enroll Windows machines into our MDM server and manage them a little bit different, but still be able to manage them right along with Apple products. So that was the big.
Is that a manual install one by one type of thing?
Unless they're on AD or using LDAP. That was one of the things right now. I wasn't able to connect my MDM server to our AD throughout the university. But if the university decides to go with AirWatch to manage all of their computers, all thousands of PCs and Macs, it'll be linked to their AD, and making accounts and enrolling Windows machines will be a lot easier.
So while you're setting up, I'd like to go back to something, make sure that for my benefit and the benefit of everybody in the room that we all understand it. The relationship between wiping, DEP enrollment, supervision, and MDM. After hearing everybody in the room, is it now the correct understanding that wiping is not necessary for DEP enrollment, but that you may need to wipe unless you're very clever, as the one gentleman behind us and got a workaround?
Yep.
And in that case, he wiped too. He just had a way of restoring. But if a device is already enrolled in DEP, I'm so sorry, if a device is already in use before it's enrolled in DEP, then you may have to wipe it in order to be able to successfully get supervision to work. Is that the correct understanding?
Yes.
That's only iOS.
Only
Does not apply
on
to
iOS
Macs.
devices.
A Mac, you can.
We had a whole bunch of them that weren't enrolled in DEP.
Uh-huh.
We had a whole bunch of Macs not enrolled in DEP, but they were in our MDM, which was Jamf. And we were moving to DEP. All my boss had to do was put in order numbers, and all the serial numbers populated in DEP. But we have no iOS devices that we manage.
To repeat this question, was there any advantage at that point to enrolling in DEP? Why?
Just for inventory purposes and backing up, I think. I don't think there's any advantage to it. It's really, I think the advantage is for when you get a new device, then you can open it up, the user can set up, and they're automatically, they go to MDM, profiles get pushed, and things like that.
It's
the
also
advantage at that point is either when something happens and you need to reimage it, or when it's stolen and they try and wipe it and bring it back up again, it will still be forced into your process at whatever point in the future, and you don't have to say, oh right, this machine needs to be reimaged to give it to somebody else, but before I do that, I need to go enroll it in it. You're just doing it ahead of time. On the supervision thing for the iOS devices, the explanation we were given from Apple, which sort of makes it make sense, is that they see iPads as being very personal, and they want that experience to be the same for everybody. So if that experience is not going to be the same, because you're supervising it and you're taking stuff away, it needs to be that way from the time the person turns it on the first time. That's why you can't add it after the fact when it's already been set up and being used. They want those restrictions to be in place from the beginning, and that's why you have to wipe it to supervise it.
So we have a campus bookstore that sells computers, and then we have our purchasing department that also buys computers. And right now, the purchasing department is in DEP, but the bookstore is not. But the bookstore actually offers us a better discount. So, if indeed in the future, in the fall, we can enroll things no matter where we buy them, that'll be perfect. But in the meantime, we're sort of not using DEP because most of our machines aren't coming from the appropriate channel. So, I mean, do you just skip the DEP and just start with your MDM stuff then? Because I'm talking more computers rather than iPads.
Again, for more computers and iPads, it was a lot easier for me to enroll computers, to enroll the MacBook Pros into MDM and be able to manage them, be able to locate them, be able to push profiles to them, be able to send messages without having them enrolled in DEP. DEP, I found, was really, again, it was good for iPads because once a person logs in with their Apple ID, that iPad kind of personally becomes theirs. Right. And without DEP, there was a dangerous step. There was a lot, I think, that you had to do in Apple Configurator, and it was just quite a bit to be able to make sure that when that iPad was being used by that student and they returned it, that it wasn't a brick. Right. So, DEP was really got it for iPad use, and mostly iPad student use rather than faculty and staff. Faculty and staff is just a bonus because I was able to enroll and actually lock their computers in. But students, we really had to be cautious when they return them.
Yeah, you can end up in the same place with or without DEP. We've had JAMP for years, and right now we've also been enrolled in DEP for years, but haven't really been doing anything with it because we had it specifically for a small number of iPads that we don't even have anymore. I am talking into the mic. It's not, is it not on at all? Hello. Yeah, that's better. So what we do right now with Macs is when we get them and we take them out of the box, we net boot them. They go talk to JAMP, they get their software and everything. At whatever point I manage to get DEP enrolled, then we can skip the net boot. When they take it out and turn it on, it will sort of automatically go and talk to JAMP because every time you turn your Apple device on, it goes and talks to Apple for the first time. And Apple says, ha, you belong to Davidson, go talk to Davidson's JSS server. And then it says, ah, you're ours, you have to install the JAMP software, and then everything else flows from there. So it lets us skip the net boot stage, and it means if somebody wipes it when they're somewhere else, and it's not us doing it, it still flows back into the same process. But you can get there without DEP, it's just a little different.
I want to reiterate what he said, but also add personal experience, enroll your Macs. It's a pain in the butt if you didn't buy them from Apple, but do it because last fall we got a brand new 13-inch MacBook Pro, cost $2,800. Mm-hmm. The cheapest price was to buy it from B&H in New York. We bought it. I went through all the gyrations to get it into DEP. A week later, it was stolen. 2 days later, it pinged Apple, verified its location, and the police recovered it.
Wow. She had a question back there.
Okay, this is kind of off topic, but I know everyone wants the new laptop experience and to give it to faculty and stuff. What if we have local files we need to transfer? So do we give the laptop to faculty and then they give it back to us and I transfer the data?
Local files like
data files,
data
Word,
files.
Excel.
Download them from your MDM if you have it. Do you have it?
We don't. We're just starting fresh. So, but no, I'm saying personal Word, Excel files.
There's a way to do it in AirWatch. I haven't done that yet because it hasn't been asked for those personal files, like just university personal files. They need everything there. AirWatch has kind of like a AirWatch content, and it's like a locker that it can be pushed to that device, and inside that content locker would be all your files, and they would be able to access that. I think it's pushed as a profile. I'm not sure because I haven't used it.
Okay.
But there is a way, at least in AirWatch, I don't know in Jamf or in
Because
any
I
other.
transfer like all the photos, music, documents, desktop items.
So you're doing like a migration.
Correct.
From one to the other.
Yes.
You can, this is my down and dirty way of doing it. You can still do that.
It just seems to defeat the purpose to give
Sure.
them a brand new computer, have
Sure.
them set up, them hand it back.
I agree
and-
with you. I agree with you.
Okay, I just didn't know if I was missing something.
I had to do that for one of our faculty, and you're right. It kind of like deflated the purpose a little bit because I had to set them up with an account, and then they needed all their stuff from their old computer transferred to their new one. So it was again down and dirty. I connected the two. I did a data transfer of his account, and then I deleted the other account and just kind of made him an administrator. It was all still enrolled. It was all gone through DEP, but you're right. The unboxing and the cool, wow, look at this is more for newer faculty or faculty that don't want a data transfer. They just don't want anything on that old computer. And it does happen. They just want to kind of start fresh or
my users.
or they've got what they need on like their external disk drive or whatever they need, and they're just willing to forego all that and move everything over. So, oh, the box.
No problem.
So is there any way with an arbitrary computer to easily tell whether or not it's enrolled in somebody else's DEP, MDM, or even some of the iCloud features allow them to remotely wipe and lock computers? My background for asking this is I volunteer on the weekends for a not-for-profit that refurbishes donated computers, and we recently had one that was still in somebody's iCloud account, and it was a departed employee from the donor, et cetera, and they decided to lock it in a couple of weeks. But that would seem to relate to any of you guys who are getting, selling used computers, and I don't suspect too many of you are buying used computers, but there may be a few of that too. So how can you tell if an arbitrary computer has been enrolled or is enrolled in one of those things? Because it does survive wiping.
Do you want to answer?
Apple has a website where you put in the serial number of the machine.
Works for iOS devices.
Yeah. On Macs.
Well, I've been able to look them up to check. Now, it may be, if you need to log in as your Apple ID and then check.
Mm-hmm.
But, usually that serial number can be checked one way or another. If nothing else, you can take it to, an Apple Genius Bar and they can check it for you. One way or another.
I was going to suggest that back when I was retail.
If you're dealing with refurbishing donated computers, that means everyone has to go through the Genius Bar. And they aren't willing to do that.
You really, and correct me if I'm wrong, you really, on a Mac, you don't know until you start it up and until it hits that network that it's enrolled.
We had imaged this one.
Correct.
We started it.
Correct.
It had gone through Deploy Studio imaging, had a clean image put on it, and it was like 3 months later, we figured out what happened. I'm sorry. So we had imaged this particular computer with Deploy Studio, including the erase option. I don't remember whether we put random data or zeros down, but totally wiped it. And it was like 3 or 4 months later that this happened, and the company that donated, the organization that donated the computer, had an employee whose this had been leave, and they, like 3 or 4 months later, probably 5 or 6 months later, because they'd already been gone by the time they donated it, looked in their iTunes account and said, "Oh my, I've got this computer. I think I'll lock it."
The issue is that your Deploy Studio workflow put in the Apple setup.done file, so it skipped what would have happened during DEP enrollment. You need to make sure that doesn't happen, and then you can verify if the machine is enrolled in DEP. Because normally you don't want to see that if you're imaging with Deploy Studio.
Right.
But in this case, you need to check that.
Huh. That's
in this particular yeah, okay, here you go.
This is going to be, it'll be, sorry, it'll be really quick.
Go, Chris.
So it looks like it worked. Wayne State University will automatically configure your iPad. Next, my username for this guy was ArtStudent02. Put in the super secret password, which I hope was right. And I can continue. And it passed a whole bunch of screens. It passed a whole bevy of things, and it got the student started. So what I did is I made a student user account in AirWatch. I used that username and password to log in, and there we are. My passcode requirement will pop up. I'll make it super simple or complex. The 1, 2, 3, 4. And then does have some apps that are going to be downloaded, and I've set them up so that they sign in with their own Apple ID and password, so that they can download their own apps. I can push them apps. It becomes kind of like their iPad, and they're able to use it how they need to and how they want to, just as if they would have gone to the Apple Store and purchased it. And when they're all done with that iPad, when it's set, when they've finished with their class, when they've done their work, and they turn it in, I can go in and wipe it. I can do a device wipe, and when it's on a network, it'll wipe it and get it ready for the next person. So whatever they've done with it, whatever email accounts or pictures, trying to think of some of the faculty, whatever apps they've downloaded, whatever they've done can be wiped and ready for the next class. And that was kind of my way of making sure that the faculty could tell their students they can record stories from people, they can take pictures, they can do what they need to with their iPads, and that they weren't confined to what they did. Also, it's again, it's an ownership thing, so they can hopefully take better care of the products rather than just think, oh, it's just from the university. If I break it or something happens, it's no big deal. So I can wipe it.
You are able to get around if they're still logged in with their Apple ID when they turn it in.
Yep.
Get ready for the next person. You can get beyond that.
Yep. I can go right now and sign in with my Apple ID. Oh no! I can change it. Damn it. I change just part of it. I change it every day. Like you're supposed to, right?
It'll be on the website tomorrow.
So I really don't care about mine as long as I didn't put the university's super secret passcode in there. Everything is good. But yeah, even with iCloud, or even with the Apple ID put in there, I can still wipe it with anybody's Apple ID. And again, it's a whole bunch of testing. It really is. It's I put in my Apple ID, I put in the university's Apple ID, I put in my friend's Apple ID just to make sure, and I took pictures, and I did all the things that I thought a student would be able to do. Then at the end of the semester, they turn it in, and I wipe it from AirWatch, and then it's gone. So, and it's ready for the next student. There you go.
Can you automate the wipe? Say, end of term, I want all these iPads wiped automatically. I don't want to have to touch them. So they're in a cart in a classroom somewhere. They get turned on. They're ready to go for the next term. Just no touch.
I don't know if you can automate that. I haven't. I've just gone through whenever the semester ends. Our semester kind of ends at different points, so I don't want to automate it while someone's got 1 day left on their project, and all of a sudden their iPad is wiped and they don't have anything anymore. So for that, I just kind of make sure I get in contact with the faculty and ask them if everybody has turned their iPads in, and if they have, then I'll wipe them. No problem. I love it. Yes, now I give it away, just like no, I don't. Cool. Thank you very much, everyone.